Behind me is the brand new 7th generation Ford Mustang, specifically in the GT premium trim level with a active exhaust and a 10-speed automatic transmission. No performance pack, no magnetic ride. Now I wanted to review this simply spec'd car because some out there may be wondering, do I really need the performance pack or magnetic ride? Is the base GT with a cool sounding exhaust good enough? I'm going to try and answer that while also showing you around this new Ford Mustang. So let's start exploring it, the 7th generation Mustang GT. All right, I'm going to start off by looking at the exterior very quickly, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you probably already know what this thing looks like at this point, and in reality, it looks pretty similar to the 6th generation. Now, the cool thing, classic Mustang lines are still here. It is still a fastback shape. The triple beam headlights look cool, and these, along with the running lights, are LED and standard across the entire Mustang lineup. Now, another interesting thing about the spec of this car is that it has the bronze appearance package. It's got a bronze pony logo up front, bronze wheels, bronze 5.0 logo, and out back a bronze GT symbol. Of course, highlighting the rear end of the car are the new looking tri-bar tail lamps. Nicely done here by Ford. So, having been a fan of the 6th generation Mustang, and that this thing is kind of like a modernized version of the 6th generation, I like the look of it. What do you think? Now, before I jump onto the interior, I wanted to cover pricing very quickly, specifically for the Mustang GT. Now, the Mustang GT base trim level starts at $44,000, and the premium trim, like the one I have here today, starts at $48,000. Now, if you wanted to check the boxes for performance options such as the performance package or active exhaust and magnetic ride, which are only available on the premium and the dark horse trim levels, you're looking at a minimum of $50,000 on the base car and $58,000 on the premium car, and this is with the manual. So if you decide to go with the automatic, it's an additional $2,000. Now, even the spec I have here today without any of those performance options is coming in at $55,000. Is it me, or has the Mustang kind of gotten a little expensive? And now on the interior of the 7th generation Mustang, let me give you an overview here before we take this thing out for a drive. So starting off with the size and comfort levels, at 5'11", sitting with the seat in its lowest position, I have maybe 2 or 3 inches of headroom, a couple inches of legroom. So I would imagine somebody a couple inches taller than I am will not have an issue fitting in this generation of the Mustang. Now, in terms of comfort, I'm going to relate that to the seat. So these are the base seats. They're heated, they're cooled, they are very comfortable to sit in. These are, I don't know if they still refer to it, but I remember in the 6th generation they're referred to as sofa seats, and the name really makes sense because this is a comfortable seat to sit in. It counterbalances the sportiness of the Mustang suspension and just offers great levels of comfort, and I would imagine great daily drivability. Next, let's talk about the quality. So to preface that, this is a premium package GT with the high 401A package, which gives it some nicer trim. Overall, good quality, materials look nice, solid feeling car, nicely buttoned down. Obviously, this is still new, it's about 5,000 miles, so no creaks, no rattles. Initial quality looks promising and pretty good. Next to the design, and I'm kind of bummed here because I'm losing out on the double hooded dash. This is an iconic interior design element for the Mustang. But however, I do appreciate how things are simple and clean, not overly busy looking, and everything is mostly driver focused. Now, one thing that does get sacrificed when you simplify an interior are buttons. There's a major reduction of them here in the 7th generation, and as a result, the climate control system is now moved into the infotainment screen. Now, using the infotainment screen as a segue into the screens, there is one in front of you that's 12.4 inches and another one in the center stack that's 13.2 inches. Now, let's be clear, there are 2 configurations of these screens. First in the base trim level where they are separated from one another, and in the premium trim like this one, they're connected behind a single piece of glass. Now beyond the screens, let's talk about the software that's running inside of those screens. Really well done. I like the customization of the gauges and the fact that you have the retro looking ones from the Fox body and even the ones from the 60s. I also like the information readouts, clear, crisp, easy to use, all the information you need right there in front of you. Now the center screen is running Sync 4, which is the latest iteration. I have an older version of Sync in my GT350 and I like how it's simple and easy to use in my car. The same applies here, even though there are a lot of new, nice features in this one. The screen and the software are responsive. The graphics are modern and super cool looking. And if you didn't want to mess with Sync, you do have the ability to run Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. But overall, I still like the interior of the 7th generation Mustang. I was kind of worried that with all the simplification and the reduction of buttons and the loss of the double dash and the implementation of more screens, I was afraid that the Mustang's interior and the character of the interior was kind of going to be lost. And I'm glad to say that that's not the case. It still feels like a Mustang in here. Nice open space, good outward visibility, and still maintains the sporty nature that you're expecting in a Mustang. So with all of that out of the way, now let's take this thing out on the road and see what it drives like. So inside the Mustang GT, before we go for a drive, let me rattle off some specs. So naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 underneath the hood, generating 480 horsepower, 415 pounds-feet of torque. But this car is optioned with the active exhaust, which gives you 6 additional horsepower and 3 pound-feet of torque, bumping you up to a total of 486 and 418 horsepower and torque respectively. You do have a choice at transmission, thankfully, 6-speed manual or 10-speed automatic like this car. As a reminder, the base Mustang GT comes with the MT82 manual transmission. The dark horses come with the Tremec. Now, depending on who you ask, this thing comes in at about 3,800 pounds, plus or minus 50 pounds. And in terms of 0 to 60 acceleration, I didn't find anything official from Ford, but the manual car should come in the mid to low 4s, and the automatic car like this one, high 3s, low 4s. Now, as a reminder, before we get rolling here, this is a non-performance pack car, no magnetic ride, so it's a fixed suspension. It has smaller sway bars in the rear. It does have smaller brakes, and there's one other thing that I'm missing. But anyway, you get the idea. It's a base car. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. And the V8 wakes up wonderfully. One of the things that I really like about this car, or this configuration, is the active exhaust. For $1,200, this is a steal. Absolute 100% check the box for this. It's really worth the money. The value is insane, and the sound, as I'll display here, is also very, very good. So the area that I'm driving in here seems to have a Los Angeles Fire Department event, and there's a bunch of kids, and it seems like it's a really cool event. But what that means for me is, the radio just turned on. What that means for me is I might not get a very clear road, but let's go ahead and try. So I'm in manual mode now, and what I forgot to do actually is change the mode. So I'm gonna put it in the custom mode, and custom allows you to tailor individual aspects like throttle response, the engine note, the steering feedback. And in lieu of putting it in track mode, which turns the traction control off, I've tuned custom mode to be exactly like track mode, but with the traction control enabled. So there's some traffic in front of me. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room, and hopefully they get out of the way. I'm going to downshift into first here. Oh, the exhaust sounds amazing on downshift. Let's go. Yes! Look at this thing roll. Yeah, so One of the things I really like about the Mustang and the Coyote is the high revving nature of this motor. So you've got about 7,500 RPM to play with, and revving it out is just a joy. Me personally, I like high revving naturally aspirated engines, and when they're V8s, they're just even better. And this I guess generation of the Coyote is just really nicely tuned, paired with this active exhaust in track mode. The inside sounds nice, the outside sounds nice. It's just a very fun and engaging car in terms of sound and power delivery as well. Very linear, delivers power nice, smoothly, not peaky, not like some twin turbocharged or forced induction motor. Really nicely done here by Ford. And this isn't a surprise. Naturally aspirated engines are generally like this. And I'm not sure if it's coming through in the video, but it sounds absolutely amazing. And part of that is probably because it's pumped in here, but this is a quick car, very quick, and engaging to drive is an understatement, even with the automatic. I would imagine how fun this thing would be to whale it out to 7,500 RPM with the manual shifter, clutch in, shift, hear some tires chirp. Man, a true muscle car experience with a somewhat European, obviously double overhead cam, modern V8 that revs pretty high. So this thing is properly quick. Now, as unfortunately, I've got a lot of traffic in front of me. There's a minivan, but let me switch for a second and talk about some of the other things. So the transmission, the 10-speed automatic is good as well. So when you're really on it, it shifts very, very fast. But one of the things I noticed, if I'm not on it, kind of like this, and I pull on the paddle, it takes a second and then it shifts. Interestingly, downshift is not like that. Whether you're driving fast or slow, it just bangs the shift. So here's an example. I'm gonna get a little bit of road here, mash. See, that was fast. That was fast. So the transmission, downshift is good too. Oh yeah, let's go, baby. Here we go, we got some road. I hit the rev limiter there. Yes, brakes. Woo, brakes are good too. I'll tell you about it here in just a second. But man, we're dancing here in this Mustang now. Yeah. Okay. So there you just got a glimpse of some of the speed and the capability and the exhaust sound as well. But as I was saying, the transmission, it's interesting there, but overall it's good. Now, switching gears, talking about the brakes. Remember, this does have the smaller brakes, but they are very, very capable. Surprisingly sensitive at the top of the pedal, nice bite at the top of the pedal, the way I like sporty cars, and more than enough power, braking power, to match the amount of horsepower and speed that this car generates. So if you're concerned about getting, what is it, I think it's like $2,000 to upgrade to the bigger Brembo brakes, I don't see a real need for it. This has plenty of braking power in the stock configuration. Now let's switch over into the suspension and the other dynamics. Now, suspension-wise, this car does feel big. Dynamics-wise, it doesn't give you like this wrap-around-me type of feel you get in some big cars, but that doesn't mean it's not capable. This is a very capable handling car, even in its base configuration. So I think Mustang has done a good job in kind of covering the broad ends of the spectrum here for sporty driving and also comfort, daily drivability, something that would do that good as well. And I'm willing to say that the Mustang does have that covered. It's nicely tuned. But what I'm going to do here is drop it down to first because I've got some more road here. Oh, the sound is so nice. Oh, 7,500 RPM, baby. Yes. Here we go. Downshift. Downshifts are good. No question about the downshifts. dang sure, even in the base configuration, no concerns in terms of sportiness here. This is it'll get your blood pumping in the base configuration. This is a solid base suspension for sporty driving. So it's not all wonderful, it's not all peaches here. The absolute shortcoming of this car in terms of driving dynamics, and maybe even as an overall car, is the steering. The steering feedback, little to none. The overall feel, little to none. It's really disappointing because I don't feel this way in my Shelby GT350, and of course that's a completely different car than a base Mustang. But I feel that this is the area that really needs some improvement, and like I said, ultimately is the weakest point of this car. There's really no weight. I'm turning the wheel. It's not like it's dead or it sucks. It just, the rest of the car is actually really good, and this part of it, it's just kind of like this glaring, almost super obvious weakness. And I don't know, that if there's any area that needs improvement, it's really here. Otherwise, it doesn't mean I don't like this car. This is a wonderful car. It's actually fast, it's engaging to drive, it sounds great. You get a choice of a manual transmission if you wanted it. It's fun. And overall, as a car, it's really good. It's improved. There's a lot of creature comforts in here. It's great to drive on a daily basis. In my short period of time driving it in daily driving settings, short commutes, things like that, this thing, I would imagine, would perform admirably. So overall, from a driving dynamic standpoint, yes, it is weak in terms of the steering feedback and all that stuff, but overall, still a wonderful car from Ford. So I'm going to pull over here and say that that's pretty much it in terms of driving. Now let me wrap it up with some final thoughts. So that's the 7th generation Ford Mustang GT. Now the question I asked at the outset, is a base GT with a cool sounding active exhaust good enough? And the answer is a resounding yes. It's still fast, it's still fun to drive, it's engaging, it's a Mustang. The interior is vastly improved from the prior generation, and overall, it's just a great car. Now, some of the early criticisms I've heard about this, besides the steering, is that it's not really a new generation. It's like a 6.5 or a Gen 6.5, because the chassis and the architecture and the engine are mostly the same, yada, 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 whatever. And to that I say, the hell with that. Because as car enthusiasts, we're guilty of allowing Porsche to do this with the 911 for several generations and several refreshes. A little nip and tuck here, 5% better here, 10% better there, brand new generation. So why not allow the Mustang to do that? After all, the Mustang name is just as classic and as iconic as a Porsche 911, and overall, it's a great car. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions about the new Mustang, please leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram @DriveSteady. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.